So what I'm doing is a second video on after if someone might have came in here and even maybe claim commissioning police operations without a permit and without a court order. That's the worst case scenario. You can either call the police, waste a day of time, or just make a document and then make it your own assessment first. If you have the honorabilities, if your lifestyle is on low budget like me, and if you're ready to leave the place to continue the international business. So what I'm doing is that I have bought some stationery from the stores, and then I always had these. I have the whole tower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 of these. And then separate them into categories. So what happened is that my company named Capstone Concepts had detected some hostilities and hostile takeover, right? And then I made the phone calls, to bankers and email out and even warn some of the investors. And I don't sell my company stocks, only bonds. And I have not issued out bonds yet. So I'm still under assessment for the extensive mapped out route to understand what each year accountancy budget might be spent on. Yeah. So again, someone has stolen my banking records because there was once grand plot to have accumulated some of my childhood hobbies and well, not really only childhood, but even later on balanced or payback by time, attentiveness, and representations, or even pictures. So right now I'm trying to separate them back into categories. So it's going to be banking statements, letters, money related letters, and designs and other things, because I was sleeping here yesterday and I accidentally flip one down. So what you need is a paper box that you can sort out some of the things. And then this year I had some checks that were paid to me and I just ripped it. And I told the person, I don't need your money. Yeah. Therefore, say, $300-something thousand Hong Kong dollars, and each 10,000 is equivalent to 1,250. So approximately a few thousand US. Yeah. So these are some kind of cookies that they can tap into your data or your standings, right? Or knowing what your investment plans might be, and try to follow or overwhelm it. So I just kind of put those aside. Yeah. And excuse my skin issues. I usually wear pants, so excuse me for this. So there might be social media that I printed out that I might have gotten, that I was subjected to debates or assessment. So there are some, back and forth kind of issues. So that's another category. And then of course there's shopping, because every year we want to improve our office settings and company operative agendas or the equipment to maintain and upkeep the company operations. So that's good. And newly, I only use madeinchina.com. Made-in-china.com only. Of course, Amazon, eBay. Right. And last year, the previous annual, I had used this letter B website that was a freight forwarding service. And then there was the Australia company that had delivered me this. It was so helpful, right? So there was an Australian freight forwarding company that delivered me this. So I ordered this, the whole freight of the whole cargo of something came. I don't know what the other things were, but I only bought that. But given the high standard of NATO companies, NATO member nations, nationals, education process, and it was probably trustworthy. And then the B letter website, they had paused shipment already, and my storage was in Utah, I think, or Ohio. Yeah. So let's go through these really fast. It's gonna be a two-step process. First, the categories, and then the institute or company, and then by the date and time. Have you guys ever done mail sorting in, say, the post office? It might be kind of the same. And there's one company, one corporation I'll never work with, Cino, alright? But we get along. Phone call, yeah, I'll answer the phone, but I wouldn't join, never. I would not join, that's all. And if you see how I stack the paper, this is upright, and then this is sideways, the way it is right now. Upright, sideways. Yeah. So. And I mean the whole corporate structure of what I just gave advertising to. because they are a newer company, and I was born in year 1980. I already found out the banking finance. It was one of the banks that I heard about, but not popular. It was Far East, Far East Bank. But they're nice. I've been to one of their establishments, and they were very professional. But they don't have a retail kind of banking corp operation. So. I think that they are probably, some of the banks. There was a time in the area or in this region, right, or in the territories here, that there was a large number of immigration and migration into Hong Kong, and before telecommunications and before there was a educational success where the top score scholars and the future leaders kind of had a sense of who they are passing on the knowledge to, would stand up and speak. That's when a lot of sacrifices had happened, because they might see sports car or luxury as toys, but it's always a study. And of course, there's always danger that in some cultures, they might say that under our corporate structure, there are restaurants. And if people eat our restaurant's food without paying full price or without paying at all, then you might be subjected to a debt, right, that you can't pay. That's when you call the police and say, hey, they're saying that I owe them money for a meal that might cost my life, Yeah. So those are just jokes to me. So this is a receipt. Receipts is handled differently. And then some corporations have have commissioned police teams, maybe traffic division, maybe technical teams, and then I usually call the CIB, the Commerce Investigation Bureau, and internal investigation units. So these are all receipts and things. then there are some account sign up online that you have to worry about. So one of the map out plans for kind of a peacekeeping in between corporations and enterprises in Hong Kong is that I said once you have the whole Tai Chi factor, right, that I kind of illustrated and said this is what might be a cultural understanding. Tai Chi factor is basically having your office, your accounting, your assessments, your car equipment, cleaning equipment, building maintenance or building maintenance equipment, the drills, the hammers, the screwdrivers, everything taken care of, computing, data server management, and documents format. So how many paragraphs per letters? The resumes coming in, the HR department, the accountancy department, the marketing department, and public image department, or not necessarily PR, personal relations or public relations, but public disclosures or public information, government responses, and things like that. Once that whole factor is taken care of, I think that it is good for media companies and media. Do you hear sirens? Yeah, don't worry about that. It happens sometimes. So sirens, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right. So there are situations that you have opportunities to invest into entertainment, and I describe that entertainment is kind of the drums to keep pace, because sometimes when people lose tracks or lose motivations, they want to see some kind of people they know might be lifted to spokesperson positions, or singing artist, or a remembrance of a platform that they deserved for, some time. And I always emphasize that movies, and in the movies, you can show some of the better ways that your company might have discovered. And then there's a difference between a corporation of companies and the tenancy into the building. And then for the territorial companies where they claim a whole street, this is like our turf, the tough guys. It's okay, but you will need 7-Eleven, you will need a stationery store, you will need a hardware store, you will need a food or fresh produce stand or juice shop. So those are the kinds of interactions that you might welcome newcomers. And for me, I deserve the office jobs. So that's the difference. Tenancy and the actual corporation. And then when the checks are ripped, because we all get good grades, right? That's good. And one of my newer discovery this year was blood transfusion to change your DNA. I had a blood infusion once, and it was accidental possibly because I went to the dentist, and then I felt there was this, salty feeling down my throat, and then I probably had a level of blood infusion, but that was okay. And if you ever had a blood infusion, you get a lightheadedness and wanted to go to sleep. So that's how it is. And then let me teach you a few words, right? Numero uno, number one, in Los Angeles, we respect the fact that there are always multilateral enterprises and operations where trainees, interns, middle management can inter-exchange happy hours, And then, and in the universities, alumni associations or other operations or organizations and groups. And for example, bankers, they usually go from one bank to another bank before they retire. So are some of the investment bankers. But investment analysts are not always the case. I mean, there are some, big money makers, first year, second year into the stocks trades or the stocks tradings, the traders, and they're able to identify some of the biggest corporations and some of the leading positioned large corporations, and those are usually the ones who might overspend and then later feel stressed and lose their momentum in the corporate ladder. So that's one thing I was successful to keep kind of minimal spending and just confident and observant. Yeah. So and sometimes when I get gestures or really in need for office management upgrades and equipment choices, just because I helped you once or twice and gave you attention once or twice, it doesn't mean that I'm a part of your company yet. But it is a mutual understanding and social movement or social improvement as a microeconomy or macroeconomics effect. So for example, this year, I said, hey, That's what the scanner is for. You can scan even the bills and drafts numbers. Yeah. And you can continue making your reports. But of course, you're not supposed to make it the exact size. So you gotta make it smaller, and that just notes, and then you can shred it. You know. Of course, you're not gonna be stupid, right? Hey, I got this much money to the store, or say you're not supposed to use it like money, so you gotta be careful with that. And don't spend every single one, only the numbers, and maybe the top one. So it's not counterfeiting, it's only picture notes. So this category is within 30 days, you cannot let people have the receipts, kind of product registry information. And then there was this one guy, he was so stupid, he named one of the national leader as his boss. I said he's retired. Tell him to call me, you know, kind of. You can't just claim somebody and risk your own life or risk your own freedom, right? So I don't take those for answers or for introductions. You better have a full recommendation with a picture with him side by side, shaking hands or, you know, hugging each other before you talk to me and try to use some billionaire's names. Yeah, unless you have ID and everything is formal and a bureau, then yeah, I'll definitely spend my time. But you might have to let me have 15 minutes to an hour, maybe eat some lunch and ponder about your national development pace. And later on this year, later on tonight, I hope to share some of my computing data that people always think that with the data and looking into the files can be an instantaneous rewarded person. And there are a lot of unfinished and not yet finished pictures, and I scramble it sometimes because when I'm doing one, sometimes I get phone calls and I have to make notes, or I jump from topic to topic and I'll go back to my cookie that I started that research topic. So that's why. And then people ask me, do you worry that you might have lost a research topic or research result or not? I remember mostly what they were. And my memory recall is by school years. And then after the school year ended, that I was the doctrine level scholar and executive, and I was able to have memory recall by Accountancy Annual, and please do not think I'm a pervert, but by the singing contest, contestants winning year. So for example, I remember the American Idols, I remember the Miss Universe, Miss USA, and some of the other contestants, and the Grammys, AMA, and and even the presidencies and the premieres, and I remember them usually by annual, so every year. So that's good. This was a stock market quote. Stock market list of each the company that is on the stock market for a given you use the index. So I had to readjust the information. So this was useful, and that is for titling your company in a foreign language, that you do not match someone existing names. And just throwing kind of topics out there, right? There are differences with and then there are some technicality issues, instructions, alright? So these are miscellaneous. Miscellaneous means other categories. So for example, there are millionaire and the B word, network. And then there are the leaders that are more feminists, and then there are the more just. It's not that we don't care, but we enjoy the kind of the bubble and study and give the information out. I personally was interviewed by a university. I don't know how they really perceived me, or they really liked me or not. They asked me what I think about women as executives. I said, well, a given company was okay. I think it is a balance. And I think that ladies are often more attentive, while men are more analytical. And then sometimes when you give police reports, you have to give them reference numbers or reference information for the allegations and accusations, because some of the police teams, team leaders are potentially new transfers or new to positions. So for example, I had experienced identity theft where I looked up my US identity. It was used while I was not in US and never went back to US physically. I went on a website named Intelless, and that's a very trustworthy website. And I saw that there were bank accounts established or possibly being used. So I had emailed them first, and I said, I think I had mentioned that only observe first, and just make a mark that I had reported the identity theft. And I have not used any private jets or yachts yet. And humbly speaking and seriously, I mean it. I've never sat in the first class of a Boeing or a commercial large plane. I've sat in the so-called or so-labeled first class seat in a small plane going to Grand Canyon. And I've sat in planes that were just one cabin, and no separation. It's not that I can't afford it, but I just think that it is a high budget. But it is worthy. It is definitely worthy that to do that. And let me introduce you to one word, right? Vocabulary. It's called the guilt trip. The guilt trip is after you make a decision and then your friends feel that they couldn't give you the peer pressure. Go, go, go. Come on, Benny, Benny, go, go, go. Get him, get him. Chew him out, chew him out. You know, give it to him. You know, give it to him. What he did wrong, right? And everybody feels kind of quiet on your decision. And then someone might say, I think we're sad. Or they might say, man, you know how much we just lost? We could have all gotten new cars. You know, my fiance or girlfriend always wanted that diamond watch. And this and that. And then without excusing yourself in the room, you look and see if they're kind of doing this or doing this, right? Everyone just relaxed. So, I have to look back into my reference books. You know. Good. And then, if you don't get that one, right? My reference books are here. And I have a library card. If not, I have to go onto the internet. And the BB, bail bonds. When you go to a police station and say, hey, can you document this case? You better document this case now. And then the police officer say, if you talk in a high volume to me one more time, I'm gonna lock you up. And then you might do it. Then you need your bail bonds for your misdemeanor talking in loud volume to a police officer, they say. Not me, but you know. So that's the kind of situation I had before. So the word is guilt trip. Aren't you sad? I'm sad. I don't know what clothes you wear in high school. I wore shorts and Mickey Mouse Disney shirts sometimes. The starters and the NBA logos and, you know. Casio, the Texas Instrument, trying to go to class too. What's the difference between Texas Instrument TI-83 and TI-85? I'm gonna go exchange it back at the store because they say I'm a member. So that's the kind of situation when you grow up. Yeah. Well, I hope everybody watched my video yesterday that there is the loss of a video by the phone itself, and it require 1 or 2 hours to retrieve or to to find on the phone because the phone was running out of battery. The battery status was lower and lower, and it reached a mark that the file did not save as a MP4 or a MPEG, that is saved as a MP4.tmp. TMP probably stands for a temporary file. So I had to find that file that was not saved in the video folder, and then I had to have a converter to convert it back to MP4, and that cost me money too. Personal budget up front, and I might possibly bought the software somewhere. Yeah. So this one is the property ownership, that if I ever talk loud to the police officer after they warn me once, and then they say, "There's a room for you here, come with me. Handcuff or not?" You know? And then before you ask for the broomsticks and all that, phone call first. Yeah. And then so this is another proof that I can afford the BB. And one reason why people get angry sometimes is because of their food. If they eat spicy food, their brain function might be very jumpy. Okay, that is probably the assessment and evaluation of these. So this is kind of fair warning going out. If anyone ever take my original copies of receipts and give me a second print, is on. I'll be so disappointed. So if you keep the original copy and give me a copy of my printed statements, no. Yeah. I'm gonna blacklist you for trying to override my own accountancy and my own choice of Deloitte prioritized accountancy formats. It happened only twice. And then if you ask me, what if one day that I have to make a choice of my future significant other or my company, no questions asked, it's my company. Can someone escort her out to her next destination? Wait, where's my pen? Yeah. And then you discover that she claimed your life. Like what? And then you make another phone call. don't worry, I have my other girlfriends. Go fight her. I'm just kidding. And girlfriends mean female friends. That's all. Today is the 15th. On the 15th, there's only half a month remaining for reporting all the taxes. And in the events that you might need a delay or a postponement, then you have to contact the tax departments. And then there are the credit card accounts. Sometimes if you have banking issue, and then you might have a bad customer service sometimes, then you might discontinue your card, and then you might forget your automatic payments. Just to clarify, the singing videos on the Instagram was just one show off to the entertainers networks. Not that I was a fan or I was a performer of any kind. It was just a assessment that I am in that scale of public performance. You can put me on stage at a open area or not. Because when I read novels, I am usually very focused and concentrated, or have a sense of the settings and things. Because I think I had a really good platform as far as English literature goes, because different language literacy is different. I remember reading a book and I felt haunted in the classroom, and it was related to the Mid East, so it's the down south the southern states, right, the plantations, and then all of the sudden, the beginning of the story, of course, gives you a scenery, right? The description of the scene and the background, and it was talking about a porch. Yeah, just kind of sitting on the porch, and I felt kind of, huh? If there's no commercials, I might feel like lonely. So in most of the books, I always can envision the background. So if they say it is a mansion, then I know it's $1 million, and then they have a big pantry, walk-in closet, you know, chandeliers or bright lights, and gourmet kitchen, 3-car garage, 2-car garage, attached or not, with the vaults, and guest bathroom, or toilet, the restroom and things. Yeah. So, and then, or in the storybooks, they might talk about social status, and social status to me is only welcoming, where you go. Just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean you can't go to the discount stores or go to the technicians focused streets, right? Yeah. Or the screwdriver, or the nails. Or I need to fix I need the screw for my watch or something. Yeah. So reading novels, I kind of like that. Or the dialogues, and then some dialogues might be very unbelievable. Yeah. And sometimes on the people that I met, and they say that if they might ask me for money, I usually give them enough just for the night or for the few days that they might be on a trip, because I always know that you can get loans from the bank, and you can get travel expenses, or you might have donated money to a temple, or just to be getting by and things. So it's kind of don't lower my percentages of budgets kind of things. And then the banking loans, I don't give people a guarantee, but a reference letter, ticking, maybe. It's sleeping cycles, whether or not they had done any drugs or drinks. Smoking, probably a tick too, or not, like ticking too. That they are mentally coherent and mentally clear. And by the way, I the other day I mentioned coherent on computing. It's not true. It's not totally the word. It is whether or not you see through some of the steps. So the word coherent is and then there's the articulacy, and then there's the accuracy. How many pages are here? Kind of. Alright? So, banking wise, if you ask me if I can make you recommendations, I told you what banks I like. Yeah. when I say like, is the name and their marketing strategies that they might expand. Yeah. And if you ask me about the adopted or not, I don't believe in that because I was shown blood transfusion machines and people cheat on these tests for reasons. They can say that it is for the community effort to keep everything as state, or to they might say there's economical issues. So I don't do that. So the whole family situation is already ended. However you describe it, you can be a divorce, disown, or genetics changed. Yeah, that's good. And then there is the issues with business proposal. Business proposal only lasts 31 days. So no official replies, it ended. So for one, I said that whatever, sometimes I buy some kind of new equipment, it would be nice that the neighbors and the neighboring corporations get to have their own individual ones. So that one ended, number one, because my incoming international budget was on hold, and that had extended effect. And then there was a governor, no names, okay, try to be my kind of adopted kind of motherly or fatherly figure. I don't do that. So I'm the head of the household. At a kind of a young age, at 40, I respect the elders. I don't try to cause any emotional upbeat to their pace, and but I keep the information. So ignore the keyboard speed, that's it. Advertisements. What else do I want to say? Hey, did you know that your vision, you lose a level of vision if you eat too much vinegar? Yeah. Websites. As far as the topic of homosexuality or soulmate or emotional bonding kind of a thing, I had a mistake that I had a sponsor event in West Hollywood when I didn't know the difference between Hollywood and West Hollywood. And when you're in the West Hollywood, doesn't mean that you're bi or gay or anything. So it was a situation where I did not know transgender can be so, mentally so, cultivated to be kind of, you know, charming, right? Or charismatic. And then later on, I discovered that some of my classmates had possibly, potentially, probably, from men to a female appeal. But I question, do they have the database from their homework and previous pictures? Don't know yet. But they definitely probably go to counseling groups every single 7 days or 8 days or every few times. Yeah. And there's no borrowing documents. Sometimes I shop, and then people want a copy and say, for security perimeter purpose, your car has to be cloned too. Dude, you made a wax from my facial appointment when I was 19 or 20, and now you want to clone my car? No. So I don't do that, so that's good. Or they trying to mark up their prices and give me commission. I say, no, don't do that. For my Taekwondo, I'm almost due to the 7th dan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm gonna have to do it. And then the TV channels have added many more channels now. So yeah, there's no certificate issued out to anyone that's been deceased. So if someone that passed away, I only been to, very few funerals live. So yeah. And may they rest in peace. So this was a police case that there was someone that gave me a gift, right? It was a jade. Jade is a germ stone, and then I said no, I don't want it. Yeah, and then they put it on the table, you know, and I just on the computer and things. And then later on, I looked at it again. It looked valuable, so I returned it. Let me see where I put it. I think I just I mail it. I mail it to the police station as evidence. So it might be in the police storage. And I'm watching TV, of course. So this was one of the forms that people kind of stop bugging me, right? I underline some of the fill outs because before I had a lot of people just kind of hand me small gifts and things. I was like, thank you, you know, thanks, you know, thanks. Yeah, and then later on I didn't know that with the gift there were so many links or consequences or exchanges of information. I say, not yet. I'm not finished with my doctorate degree yet. And if I give out my full list of classes, then I might be kind of into kind of the university fellowships and things. So I put an underline and what it was and things, and then that's when people slow down. They okay, so he knows, so that's good. So sometimes pictures online is already good enough. So for example, I see some people that I knew from back then that I had given this message to, and then they were able to have these gifts or something. Yeah, so that's kind of a advertisement and reminders for me already. So that's good. And this one is accountancy class overviews and things. And sometimes when I order supplies, I don't like the fact that people intercept it and then pay my banker to give me a refund on my credit card. That is just unreasonable. And, you know, if I place the order, I need the supply. If they're not illegal and they're not some kind of, you know, and they can't override it because I'm the head of the household and, you know, the founder of the company and things. And I don't want to brag and say how much my company's worth. So this happened to me 2 times already. The same clear plastic paper container box. And then there sometimes are documents that's been slipped into my drawers. You know how I find out? My fingers are so sensitive to paper. I know what paper I used, and some printers, of course, gives it a layer of waterproof. So that's one of the issues. I use HP and the AAA kind of, double A or AAA, whatever branding. And sometimes I make my own papers. Or on occasions I had made some special papers before. And if you ever have someone handle a used car, you better be careful. Alright? Because she's handling your CPU data, and she's handling your things. So bankers, be careful that she's not a banker. So there was this part-time job that I had. The boss lent me some money. I gave him back supermarket coupons, and then they say I expect cash. I'll say all you get is supermarket coupons, because if there's cash exchanges, that might be money laundering. Money laundering. Money laundering, and that is punishable for 15 years. 15 years. You know. So, no cash payback. It's all supermarket coupons. I can give you Lane Crawford. City Super is also a supermarket, but you can buy accessories at Log On. Amazon.com. I cannot give you cash, only coupons and, gift certificates or some kind of certificate of cash. If I give you cash, I have to get a court order. And then they get really angry. We want cash. What are you, ghost? I used to take cash cards when I demanded some money. Hey, you know, this thing is not working thing. You know, this thing, nobody touched it, I guarantee you. But it's not as advertised. And they say, you know, it's been, you know, I asked the manager and you get only a cash card. That's good. Alright. So these are emails. And then some of the previous part-time office assistants, or in America they say runners, but they senior office, right? And the capabilities or focused sometimes is to have you have a mental delay or decision delay, and it is very mischievous, not cunning, mischievous. And kind of let's delay him and learn everything from him and override him. I say no, there's so many professions and trades and qualities that you can be your own boss, right? And then there's a situation that they kind of describe a situation or a person, as some kind of disbeliefs. And I think that as 40 years old, I'm 39 now, and consider nearly 40 years old, I think that some of my earnings from overseas companies, sometimes I get distracted by many newer obstacles that I might face. But it is a good positioning at my age to understand what might be challenges to English education, receive the information. And it's good that the few very knowledgeable Chinese translating operations have credits back and forth to the English one. And there's always a date of the first class of alumni and the first date of a major certificate given out to students. And then there are existing diplomacy, of course, that in Hong Kong, we already have, the residents here already have consulate general of each nation, probably. And sometimes, of course, there might be miscommunication and a loss of translation. So if you might have to pause my reservist position or orders, it's okay. I totally understand. As long as I feel I can safely, relocate I'll write my report later to explain. So once again, there's no family relations anymore, because there were adopted relations that I do not agree, and then there were recruitments of my personal network, and then once it goes over there, it is also no. And then there is always a yes or no kind of grouping, so to balance. It's not necessarily left wing and right wing kind of journalism. So it's good to be the head of the household. I want to say thanks to some of the printing out graphics on Google. Yeah. But I don't print a lot. So every year, I would say every December, I will send out an email or a list or a photo bucket account or a FlickR account of all the Google graphic that I might have saved. So for example, this one is this one. That's good. So these were some cases, some things that I wanted to get, but not yet. So for example, these are filing cabinets with rails and things. So these are probably next year's agendas. Excuse me, I scratched my leg, right? Next, if there might be young officers or your dearly family members trying to compete with me, I personally just want to say it is, you know, their own developments. And as far as research and instantaneous knowledge and responses, I say that seriously, I think that there's not anything at a doctrine level of universities, you know, position, scholars position, that you cannot get an understanding eventually, right? Other than protect these identities or a location of laboratories or some kind of space technology or name of a company that discontinued, like stopped. I mean, just discontinued, or funding sources sometimes. And gambling, accuracy of spending, and productions design. So basically, there is a situation that you can have if you give me, say, 30 days, just like court system in Los Angeles or in USA, then I don't think there's a topic I cannot find out the answers. So the kind of the truth or dare situation that, hey, I dare you 2 days, you can't find the answer, and you lose something, I don't do that. But if you give me 30 days and you give me a topic worthwhile, I'll do a research, no problem. And then there is this, and then for briefing, right? If you want me to brief a whole platoon-sized company or a corporation as a morning exercise and things, consider already done. So now it's just a small chat. Just a small chat. And then I understand that the U.S. headquarters of some of the companies that I had welcomed for bonds or for observing kind of position or assessment positions, they were able to have a representative in Hong Kong. And sometimes, of course, the representative might write my reports and have it as their work side by side on the topic. So example, I list Pirelli tires because I'm very good into cars. Yeah. I named the Disney because I like animation. Because when you're a child, sometimes you're very, very judgmental on a human face or on the tone of their voice. But the child sometimes will eventually learn that in a given 24 hours, not everyone is going to respect your sleeping hours. They might give you a phone call and say, did you pay the bill? Or just prank calls. So don't do that. Don't do that. And then there is the there's so many here. So without looking where I put this, I'm gonna put it underneath my seat. So the turning point was 2017. I almost lost my life once because I had some younger ones that they see me as a cousin. I said, I'm not your cousin. Someone lied to you. So they now learn I'm not their cousin. So that was the mistake, right? So I almost lost my life when the kids were growing up very aggressive. I was like, it's okay, And I had demonstrated how to live on a low budget. Yeah. And then there was another turning point last year in 2018, whereas some of my classmates or previous classmates, they thought that they had my entire map out plan as a once courtesy courtesy proposal, so that hey, I made a proposal, you didn't like it, and that they thought they could exercise and overwhelm my entire business portal and business operation. So that had been proven you can't, because whatever I gave you is out in the world. Yeah, so that was language sufficiency, translation sufficiency. Until this year 2019, you had not made another student with the equivalent. Without children that can still go to court against a challenge. So I can say maybe one or two that might be able to translate, but they probably already have children and their schedule is too busy. So that was a victory, but I don't celebrate much on victories. I only celebrate on awards and things. And then there was someone that sometimes when you are growing up, you have these overwhelmed situation where it might be involving law enforcement, and then later you learn that the law enforcement could have been your job. And then there was a situation where you might need to buy equipment to record some of your phone conversation, and people might try to keep you down because you might have a few words. Then that's good, that there are more assessments. And then there was this fat classmate, right? She somehow got called in as a translator inside a meeting, and then she tried to claim better linguistics than I do. That was a joke. That was her joke. Yeah. And then there was and then as a young adult or the head of the household, sometimes people might in favor some of the other opponents because they have families to feed. and that's just Oriental culture sometimes. Not really, but a lot of cultures. Then you go alternative routes and just keep information away, and that's your business policies. So for example, I made a corporate name, and the corporate name got slipped to someone else. So I stopped that, and I'm gonna do just a common name. So that's how it is. There was another incident. So my company name is Capstone, right? The top kind of stone in a doorway or gateway. And I told them the pillars are your confidence pillars, right? And the ladies had jokes and say, the capstone concept is checkmate you, kind of, yeah. So that's not gonna happen. It's always company before, yeah, the relations. I think that one of the most annoying, one of the most irritating, one of the most lose and loss of energy is to have someone younger than you claim your distant family and just kind of yap at you all day. So that's how the billionaire networks know when someone goes independent, or millionaire network knows someone goes independent, and they respect that. They say, well, this young man is obviously capable and confident of his studies, of his self-ethics, of his perseverance, integrity, and everything. The way they carry themselves, the way they respond, the way they might take time in a corporate structure to write the mapping of plans, and their advertising skills, that, that's good. The investment's always there. So banking this year, I am using OK so far is HSBC, SBC, CBSB. So a Standard Charter. There's a China Merchant Bank, and then there is the Citibank, and then and I have some American banking accounts that were just simply saving accounts. I understand that my knowledge and my personal understanding had already exceeded many of the previous generation highest achievers in the Asia continent, but I think that with respect, the respect is always there, but as far as a company within the building kind of aims to learn more and more before spending money to buy equipment, then it is a personal issue. And of course there's weekly and monthly and daily news and things. And I had told everybody that try to invest into myself and my companies that do not let in all the fundings all at once. So maybe only a small portion. So and that is conflict prevention, that informational exchanges and media releases is mostly so that you spend your company budget nicely, neatly, and a very smart way. And smart means having been to many marts, many markets, and understand what's out there. And your options. So that's good. And then sometimes you ask me why some of my opponents might be kind of childish or immature. That's because they have younger people that might try to have a role into the serious positions. Another reason there might be a laws change, because if your room is full of radiation or radio devices, it is easier for you to get headaches. So sometimes your windows have to open, or you have to have mirrors. The lighting is possibly another reason why you might get headache. So for example, there's this show, right, on TV. the TV show, and because of the lighting, sometimes the interviewees, they get a headache. Yeah. So with today's technology of camcording and camera, you can change the contrast and lighting outputs. So while I'm doing this, you're supposed to have one person making the notes of what I say, and then nobody pause, okay, for these videos. So I'll mention that in the videos. And sometimes people ask me, I'm middle age, 40 or 39, why do I look younger than my age? Number one, because I don't talk face to face with elderly people. It's not because of a mere factor. It's just stress. Yeah. So sometimes I know why people are elder age. Yeah. But my focus and my understanding and my spectrum of thinking and pondering is the whole national and international relations. Broad view. Broad view. There's other planets. There are other planets. And other galaxies other than the Milky Way. As far as an acting class that I had done, it was not an acting class. It was just kind of giving it out. It was a project. But TV production class I had taken, yeah. So it was not really an acting class. It was just kind of a project. They want people to do a screenplay. And my role was an officer, police officer. Only appeared once. And it was on it was a one line kind of thing. So it wasn't a true writing class, but that's because I was already reading too many books and seeing too many movies. And I knew that movies kind of make you go into emotional swirl. So I usually watch 2 movies at once. I watch a downer movie. I'll watch an upbeat movie right away. So I watch 2 movies same day sometimes. Or I might just listen to music or watch TV or YouTube. So these are video notes that I might rewrite some notes later. Some people make fun of my name sometimes because you know how in the illegal aspects of business wants, they might be, or business stupid ideas, might be narcotics, gambling, but illegal gambling, where there's no assessment of the odds with poker cards, or the gambling place might try to say that you have higher and higher interest and then break up your family and things. And there is prostitutions. So these 3 I don't do. Alright? I don't sell, and I don't do that. So people might make fun of my name and say, hey, your name means yellow. Yellow in Chinese might mean prostitutions. I don't have any money from prostitutions, not even from websites or pornographies. So that's good. I don't do that. And then they say that, but in Chinese culture, there's a lot of things like that. There's always individual cases. Yeah, so if you look up my footprints and records, I don't do that. But what about the other yellow ones? You know, shadow you. That's them. You know. So let's look at this one document. Okay, so there's a Citibank code they gave me is SW colon YC66878. That's not my ID for inner classifications, but I had to accept the code for identity kind of issues. So that's the only code I have received from Citibank Hong Kong. And one day or two afterwards, there was a email. Well, actually, there was a news release that Google had bought some Citibank analysis for $2 billion US dollars, or 20. I think it was 2 bill. Yeah, I was like, what? Don't tell me they use my email at the vaults. Yeah. Like the submarine ones. Yeah. But honestly, I know that I'm very precise with my keying searches informations. And then the reason why I restarted the Citibank account is because I had a gold card, and I always need to remember and enable my assessors from overseas to ask for the Citibank record. If your account is closed, you do not have a customer relation, they might not give it out. So for Hong Kong, the China Merchant Bank credit cards that I had was named the WL Bank. Alright. And then I might only keep 100 or 100,000 as a small account. So some banking status, you might not see me as a VIP, and that's because I don't go there at all. And the insurance coverage in America is 200,000 FDIC. So anything over and your account might have identity theft, they only cover 200,000. So in Hong Kong might be a 1 million Hong Kong dollars account. So let me say a few words in Chinese. Same topic, right? Citibank 嗰個銀行嘅 employee 定唔知係一個 issue 嘅 ID 咧，有一個 SW colon 冒號啦 YC66878。I accepted the code. Might be a ID link, but it's not me. So I don't do my research with that number. So I'm not a employee of Citibank. So that's all. And sometimes while recording, that's when people really stress you. Tries. And then there is another obstacle where that some people were able to use my old address and claim that tax forms are supposed to mail there. So yeah, these kind of things, not good. So all these are supposed to have internet. If not, you don't deserve the fundings into your country or nation. So you have to tell your presidential office, Mr. Secretaries and Mrs. Secretaries or Miss Secretaries. Once again, if your internet cannot re-register your address, you cannot have your tax pay online by credit card and by checks, you don't deserve international fundings. So tell your presidential offices. And so far in here, it's going there, it's almost done. Almost. That's why I teach people how to use the computers. And you can always bring documents for me to sign. And I keep copies here. And this might be considered a escort. Because I speak the truth, nothing but the truth. And then there might be phases of people that for a security premise, because they might have name change, so one photo maybe. Yeah. But I would not use them for showing people and things, only for securities within the premise, because there's court order 100 meters distance. That's good. So very soon that I think you can pay taxes online, you can pay water bills and electric bills. And then sometimes they say, it's not that we don't let you, but you have to go through an extra step. And because of that extra step, you might lose popularity. So and earlier I spoke about enterprises have commissioning police. There are commissioning judges also, so be careful about that. Courtroom judges, so you gotta be careful about that.
And they have commissioning priests also. Yeah. So that's when I stopped writing it. Yeah. This is one of the law offices that I had just pushed away some of the cousins' claims and things. I said this own divorce never happened, false relation, blood infusion, blood transfusion, and ready fake test because of conflicts, minimizing kind of approvals. So it was good. They know. And if you ever see people that might, me for example, one decision after that, I have to get serious. So sometimes my emotion might change. And I have to go through a lot of government responses, and sometimes they are housed in a dorm room and things. So I have to be more serious on some of the times, and sometimes you might think I'm too serious, and I don't get to enjoy all my things, and that's because I don't want the contracted servicemen to feel tempted back to kind of because not every place have office buildings. So this was a company that was kind of just said, oh, you must have this 0.01% into this operations just to tap into my business plans, and I had just said no. Yeah. And my case had to go as far beyond the borders. I had to go to International Court of Justice. So I don't waste officials' time. And some corporations are known to have war. I'm serious, like conflict war, threats against other people because they recruit lifers. They recruit pardon people from jails. So when you're dealing with that, sometimes you have to tell them, don't punk me around, you know. That's good. And they call those volcanoes. It's kind of the volcanoes that nobody visit them, and then no families, and then they join a corporation or a security team, and I don't deal with that. Everyone's courtesy, and you get enough money for the day or for the week of eating and sleeping in peace. So this was a copy that of the stock certificates I had lost. Yeah. And there were not supposed to be stamps. So it was also a way that they steal the certificates, and they lie to their ancestries, relatives, and say this company has potential, and it's not just potential, it's international investment. It's not similar to some of the other companies, because my company started in the US. It's not started in Hong Kong. So that's why a lot of them, many of them, they would report to the police and said that it would just hand it to them, and that they trade their status with other companies. Maybe the food that I eat or something, you know, of companies that they eat. For example, I eat McDonald's, so they might buy stocks from McDonald's. And I bought the utilities certificates or stocks, just one or two, minimized. So, and they probably traded the value, well, not the value, but they know that people just hand it to them. That's good. So I'm gonna finish just making these videos. I mean, I'm gonna finish stacking the paper in the video, and then I'll show the computing skills in the next videos. All right, I should get this done before the day ends, and rescan some of these two fingers. My finger. All right. Goodbye.